Transmitting to you from Old Heart Radio.
Ladies and gentlemen, that's right. This is another episode of Coffee and Contemplation. Your most least consistent Old Heart Radio podcast. That's goddamn right. I'm your host, Old Heart, aka Jared, aka whoever the fuck you want me to be. Call me what you will. I don't really give a shit. But if you call me a bastard, I'll punch you in the fucking teeth. All right? So fuck off with that shit. Either way, we're not getting violent on today's program. We're not getting that crass on today's program, because guess what? We're talking about comic books today. And not just like comic books in general. We're talking about something that I was really fascinated with when I was a kid and really still need to collect today. We're talking about the Amalgam Comics label, okay, or title, or whatever you want to fucking call it, really. So, Amalgam Comics was basically a fake comic book label or publisher that was a little bit of DC, a little bit of Marvel, and it was like a mix. It was literally a mixture of both. And one of the as a kid, like I've said this on this podcast before, but I mean, as an adult, as a kid, as a whatever, I loved crossovers. I love crossovers. You give me, there's like a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and Mighty Morphin Power Rangers crossover right now in comics. That shit's fucking awesome to me. This is one of those instances where it's the two biggins. It's the two big guns, okay? So it's DC and Marvel sharing comic book panels, right? Big fucking deal. But in case you didn't know, I'm just going to drop this on you. So amalgamation is literally defined as the act or result of combining. So the result of combining things. So keep that in mind. That's why this fake label is called the Amalgam Comics. The Amalgam Comics label featured characters that were combinations of both, like of two elements, like one from DC and one from Marvel. So my buddy, shoutouts to David Fitzgerald, my buddy D Fitz, he had the number one, I don't know how many issues there were, but he had the number one issue of Dark Claw, which was a combination of, the Dark Claw was like a combination of Batman and Wolverine. So like had like some fucking, I mean, the outfit was a little janky, but the idea fucking awesome, right? Okay, so Dark Claw was a character, right? So Amalgam Comics was founded in 1996. It later on went defunct in 97, mainly because they had no more use for it. Because again, it was basically like a fake title to house fake characters for a very specific storyline. And that specific storyline branched out of the DC versus Marvel comic crossover event. That was, well, at least I think DC was called DC versus Marvel Comics through like issues 2 to 3, and then the rest of them, issues 2 and 3 were titled Marvel Comics versus DC, so they flipped it around a little bit. But anyway, so it was this big event that was written by Ron Mars and Peter David and penciled by Dan Jurgens and Claudio Castanelli, and it basically featured all of your favorite superheroes. So it featured, Superman and Wonder Woman, Batman, Green Lantern, Martian Manhunter, and so on and so forth. Did I say Wonder Woman? I better have. She was second on the list. And then, you go on to and you have Marvel characters like Hulk and Spider-Man and, fucking Thor and Captain America and Iron Man, like Silver Surfer and shit. Don't forget Robin was in there. And this was the strangest one to me. Jubilee? Didn't understand that. Never understood Jubilee's appeal. Maybe to the rebellious young teen girls or some shit. They're like, she's gonna be the new Spider-Man, but for teen girls, man, they're gonna latch onto her, and then just nobody ever did. So again, this Amalgam Comics was basically a means to introduce characters in this fictional universe that sprung up out of this DC versus Marvel, or Marvel versus DC, whatever you want to call it. Because the plot line in oh god, shoutouts to Comics Explained. That dude, one, has a soothing ass voice. Two, breaks down these massive comic book events so well. So shoutouts to him. Go on YouTube and look up his DC versus Marvel video, because it's there and it's very accurate in terms of my feelings. Except for, like, I have to double down on the fact that, like, despite all the, like, thinness in the plot of the DC versus Marvel or Marvel versus DC story, it is so cool to see those characters interact. And, like, that was exactly what happened to kids and teens and young adults and, you know, assholes like me when it came out too. So, you know, it was definitely interesting. Shoutouts to anybody who's listening right now. You all are fucking awesome. Shoutouts to Mariah and Casey for making some merch. You guys are fucking great. Shoutouts to Uncaged, my homie Joe. Shoutouts to Olivia. What up? Shoutouts to Yellow Teeth. Shoutouts to my co-host Castle Roll. Y'all are fucking awesome, man. Keep up the rad stuff that you do. Anyway, so DC versus Marvel, or Marvel versus DC, whatever you want to call it, was just like the story itself was just kind of janky, right? So these two brothers who were like these universal entities, basically representing the DC universe and the Marvel universe, decide to like get into a fight or whatever, and they take characters from their respective universes and basically pit them against each other, make them go and fight each other. So you see some classic setups like, you know, everybody's always wanted to see Captain America fight Batman. You see, of all things, you see Wolverine, who is like arguably one of Marvel's, arguably probably been in Marvel's top 3 most popular characters since the 90s. Wolverine versus Lobo, who is kind of like a space play on the ridiculousness and unkillableness of Wolverine, but also, what a fucking match, dude. What a Lobo versus Wolverine. I don't think that would be just like a quick 1-2. But anyway, moving on. So there was also like, you know, Wonder Woman ended up fighting like Storm or some shit like that. Wonder Woman wields the hammer of Thor, which is fucking badass. But you have like Elektra versus Catwoman, you know, the classic, like everybody wants to see who's faster, Flash or Quicksilver. Obviously it's the Flash. Quicksilver is no fucking match. But anyway, okay, so you have all these crossovers, right? And they all end up, nobody ends up, basically this is how they work themselves out of it, because nobody wanted to have their most popular character lose. So half of the fights they had voting go to fans, and the fans could like pick who fucking wins and who loses, and then the other ones they decided. But again, I don't think anybody wanted to have their most popular character lose, so they wrote some pretty janky ass shit. So like basically everybody ends up working together. Okay. So everybody's fighting, and then everybody ends up like basically people start working together, and it ends with like these two like giant cosmic entities that represent their respective DC universe and Marvel universe. It ends with them like brokering a peace and basically understanding that they're both great universes and that they should join forces. So they join forces and become this amalgam universe, and that's where the Amalgam Comics comes in. So Amalgam Comics label is a comic book label in this fictional amalgam universe that takes place branching off of the storyline that it turns characters from both universes into one. So you have like Doctor Strange Fate, who's a ridiculously powerful sorcerer supreme or whatever. It's basically like if Doctor Strange from the Marvel universe wore the helmet that Dr. Fate wears, like the helmet of Nibiru or whatever the fuck it is. and just ridiculously powerful magic. You have like characters like I said, like Darkclaw. You have like the most ridiculous character, in my opinion, is like a mash between Captain America and Superman. Like, the design looks fucking stupid. What's the name of that character, man? I gotta find the name of that character. The design looks ridiculous, and he just looks like a fucking, like, I don't know, just stupid Boy Scout. But there's just like, I mean, there's just a litany of them, and it's just fucking ridiculous. Oh yeah, what's his name though? It's like Super Soldier. That's literally his name. His name is just Super Soldier. A reference to Superman and the Super Soldier Serum. Fucking bullshit. But as you can see, like, this had such a massive appeal to me as a kid, but also as an adult, I like learning that they basically created a fake comic book label to represent characters in this fake comic book universe that they created for the storyline that eventually goes away. Is so fucking deep. It's such a deep cut to me because it's like layers on layers on layers. It's like, I'm gonna start this bullshit to like convince everybody it's real, to convince it to let anybody in the know that it's not real. I don't know. It's just awesome. And like I said, if you've been reading comic books for as long as I have, or at that point in time in 96 when this came out, if you've been reading comics, you would always probably wanted to see those characters interact. You had a few instances before that, like Spider-Man and Superman, or Hulk and Batman, or whatever, but those were all just like very, like, I don't know, they weren't as cool as you thought, right? I guess I'll say. But looking back, neither was this. It was definitely not as cool as you thought, and that's because they really counted on, throughout this whole story, this whole comic book like adventure, they counted on you just giving a shit about the characters and basically like how cool they look, and not really like what's actually happening in the story, or how they're like solving their problem or whatever. Anyway, I don't want to spoil it. Just go watch the Comics Explained video, and he'll break down the whole thing for you, and you don't have to worry about reading the book. Me, though, I actually still want to collect all the single issues just because I'm a sucker like that. Anyway, hope you learned something about something you didn't know, because that's definitely this has definitely been another episode of Coffee and Contemplation. I've been your host, Old Heart, aka Jared, aka whatever. We've been talking about the Amalgam Comics that you probably didn't know existed. So go out there and use your brains for good. Every day is a good day to ripen up that coconut. And what do we say, ladies and germs?